Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And this movie came out in 2023 and it's directed by Peyton Reed. And I have seen the first two Ant-Man movies. I have yet to review the first one on my channel, but I saw it a long time ago once, and I don't really remember much about it. And the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I saw once in theaters, like 6 years ago, just over 6 years ago, and I barely remember anything about it. And this one was probably worse than that one from memory. I can remember some bits and pieces of Ant-Man and the Wasp, kind of, but this one, I was just like, what are we doing? It started off kind of interesting, like the opening scene looked very reminiscent of something like Dune, but underground. And then we get to the rest of the movie, and it's just Star Wars, honestly. That was the whole movie, was to be Star Wars. And I was like, yay, we're just doing this again. I get that it's Disney, and Disney not only owns Marvel, but they also own Star Wars, so they are allowed to do that, I guess. Because I guess it's not ripping off if they're just ripping off themselves. But I was just not into it, and it didn't offer me anything. I was kind of with the movie before we got into this other world, like small world or whatever they call it. I was like, okay, when things are kind of normal and we're just being introduced to the characters once again, I was like, okay, I can at least roll with this. And after that point, it just kind of lost me. One thing that doesn't really work for me about these movies is the humor. I just don't really find it funny. But this one, I will say, is no exception. It wasn't worse, but it was just not really for me, and I just found it distracting. And the movie got repetitive very quickly. Like, not even an hour in, and it was just the same locations over and over and over again. Like, we weren't progressing at all. It took about halfway into the movie before we even got some kind of explanation as to like what is happening. I was just impatiently waiting for something interesting to happen, and that just never happened with me. The action scenes were pretty dull and boring for me. I was not invested in anything that was going on. Mostly because I was kind of annoyed with the characters in this movie. Like, I just couldn't stand how they were written. They're just really annoying characters. And to top that off, the performances in this movie were surprisingly not great. Like, Michael Douglas, he just felt like he was phoning it in. And Catherine Newton, like, I've seen her in some stuff and she's good. Like, I really like her in Lisa Frankenstein. I think she does a good job in that movie. And she's been in some other stuff, like she was in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri for like one scene. And she's proven that she can be talented and do pretty good. But in this movie, I think part of the problem she had was that she didn't really have much of a character to play. Like, the fact that her character is kind of weak and not really given a whole lot of development in this movie drags it down for me. And this movie has too much going on to the point where it's like, okay, what are we really doing here? And from memory, her character was just like the daughter character kind of looking after her dad or something. And that's fine, and that's all she really needs to be. But in this movie, she has to kind of be her own character and grow up and be a part of the plot, which I feel as though maybe you could have done something with that, but unfortunately they just do nothing with that. The only performance that I enjoyed in this movie was Paul Rudd. I felt like he was doing a great job and keeping me somewhat entertained throughout the film. And it felt like he was the one who wanted to be there and doing the best that he could, whereas everyone else was just not really into it and didn't want to be there at the very least. And the pacing for this movie was pretty slow. It took forever for things to happen, and once things finally get going, by that point it's just too little too late, and there's no reason to care because the movie never gives you any reason to care. And there's so much it needs to establish, and it just kind of glosses over a lot of interesting things. And as a result, it doesn't really work. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, the visual effects in this movie were like very inconsistent. Sometimes they looked fine and were a part of the environment, kind of somewhat, but whenever we had like humans in the frame, it looked ugly and disturbing and disgusting, and I couldn't stand it. It just looked awful, and they just looked rushed. The visual effects did not look very good in this movie overall. Like, when they really mattered, it just felt like a cartoon at times. Or an animated movie that was not very well animated. Like a CG animated movie or something. The villain in this movie was boring to me, and I didn't care for that aspect of the film at all. And I will say one last thing before wrapping this up. The drama in this movie was very forced, and I couldn't stand it whatsoever. It never once felt natural. It just felt like the writers, they needed some drama in the story, so they just wrote in a bunch of nonsense and expected it to work. And that's about all I have to say about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It was bad. It was kind of a chore to sit through. Not the worst movie I've seen, but still, the standard should be higher, and they just didn't really do anything interesting with this film, and anything that could have been interesting was never really touched on or like explored properly or developed in a way that would have made it interesting to watch. And as a result, we get this 2-hour nothing movie. So skip this movie if you ever come across it, would be my recommendation. You don't need to watch it. Just watch something else. I don't know if I would say anything really, because there are movies that are worse than this, obviously, but watch Deadpool and Wolverine, watch Thunderbolts or The Fantastic Four: First Steps, the later MCU films. Like, those three are much better, and some previous ones I think are better. Like, if we're talking Phase 4, Phase 5, I forget where we're at specifically, if this is a Phase 4 movie or a Phase 5 film. I think it's Phase 5, but I could be mistaken. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania a 3 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Brian and Charles. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.